I'm going to talk about the ketogenic diet. I've been doing it for about 3 years. I want to talk about what it's like being on the ketogenic diet, what some of the common pitfalls are, what adaptation is like, is it hard, and other things like that. So about 3 years ago, I decided to try out the ketogenic diet. I've been reading about it and I wanted to test it out. It's called the ketogenic diet because your body begins making ketones. Your body can use two different types of fuel. It can use glucose or it can use ketones. Glucose are what you get when you break down carbohydrates. You can also get them from breaking down protein. And ketones are what you get when your liver breaks down fat. Most people run primarily on glucose. The Western diet is very heavy in carbohydrates, so as a result, we're running on glucose. And the problem with glucose is we have trouble modulating exactly how much we need. We tend to overshoot. And when we overshoot and get too much glucose in our bloodstream, we release insulin to keep the amount of glucose in check. And there's a lot of evidence showing that the whole glucose and insulin interplay was meant to be more of an emergency type device rather than something that was continuously used all day, every day. Insulin causes some collateral damage when it's secreted, and it damages your blood vessels. And if it's a rare or periodic thing, then it's not a big deal. Your body releases cholesterol, it goes out, fixes the damage to your blood vessels, and you're good as new. The problem comes when you are continuously saturated in glucose, and as a result of that, your bloodstream is continuously being exposed to the insulin, being damaged by it, and cholesterol is continuously being sent to repair it, and over time cholesterol builds up. Another advantage of ketones over glucose is that cancer cells feed on glucose. Cancer cells cannot feed on ketones. So switching to a ketogenic diet, some have speculated, would result in starving cancer cells. The ketogenic diet, if I understand correctly, originated with the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs do a lot of operations involving scuba tanks. And some of these operations could be compromised if they see bubbles coming up from the divers. And so they had to reclaim the CO2 that the SEALs were breathing. When they did this, some of the SEALs went into seizures. And when you go into seizures underwater with the scuba tank on, that's pretty much curtains for you. But when they discovered when the SEAL's bloodstream was full of ketones rather than glucose, they were less prone to seizures. In fact, a ketogenic diet is often prescribed to people who have seizures. I'm not a doctor, but I'm told, and the research seems to indicate that that's what happens. There's a lot of benefits from the ketogenic diet, including less insulin, and if you're prone to seizures, it apparently reduces those. There were a couple of other benefits that I was interested in. I used to get brain fog every day about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. On the ketogenic diet, I no longer do, because you're not getting a large amount of glucose pumping through your system. You're just continuously burning fat all day, every day. And so you don't have these big ebbs and surges in energy levels or in mental clarity. Another thing that people report is that you eventually become fat adapted. So I want to talk briefly about the adaptation process. When you first switch over, your body may go through a type of withdrawal. People talk about getting the keto flu or similar. I didn't personally experience that. I just switched over and it wasn't a big deal. You can eat as much as you want, you can't eat carbohydrates. And so it leaves people feeling like something's missing. So there's an adaptation process. Anyway, your body has no choice but to start burning fat. We commonly hear about people switching over from carbohydrate burning to a fat burning mode in running events like marathons. You hear about people hitting the wall, and you hit the wall when you use up all of the glucose in your system and all of the glycogen, which is short-term storage glucose stored in your muscle cells. When you run out of that, you're out of energy. And then you hit the wall and you struggle through it, and eventually your liver starts producing ketones, and that allows you to finish the race. Once you're fat adapted, you don't go through that process. I go hiking up the mountain behind my house. It's about a 5,000 or 6,000 calorie hike. It's 11 miles and I gain 6,000 vertical feet. And then I've got to come the whole way back. And I do it without eating. I just burn body fat as I go. At first, your liver will have trouble keeping up with the demands you put on it. You'll have trouble breaking down fat fast enough. For star athletes, it may take them as long as 6 months before their liver is able to keep up with the very high energy demands that they subject them to. But once they do have it, they're able to go continuously and you don't have to worry about food anymore. So the adaptation process, it does take a few months. when I would go running, I would be out of breath for the first couple hundred yards, and then I would adapt and run without any issue after that. So that's been my experience with the keto diet. In a future video, I'll talk more about what specifically I eat. You have a lot of options, but they are different options than you are used to. And I'll have a video that talks about that, and then perhaps if the demand is there, I'll post some recipe videos or post some recipes just to give you some ideas of what you can do. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. Click subscribe, give me a like, and talk to you later.